Okay. Kristen, thank you so much for participating in our event today and in the panel. You were talking about training and local help. If you could elaborate a little bit on what it was said about it today?
Yeah, so I work for the Global Plastic Action Partnership, and through funding also from the UK government, we are able to support directly now over 11,000 workers from the informal sector in the plastics waste picker space. And a lot of the local organizations we work in Colombia, Brazil, Ghana, and many other countries are focused on building capacity on the ground for the waste picker sector. That can include anything from skills training in terms of the actual technical requirements for recycling and the work they do, but also things like safety, worker safety, and also education for the communities and empowering leaders from the waste management piece and the community to engage with the political and sort of leadership conversations at the community level to make waste management a priority and the protection and empowerment of waste pickers a priority on the ground.
And you also mentioned two key issues in order to talk about plastic in a circular economy environment. What are those?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of opportunities and solutions across the whole life cycle of plastic. So it's not that there's one silver bullet solution, but it's the whole system that needs to change. So when we think about the life cycle of plastic, we need to start and think about, first of all, applications that are just not necessary or simply avoidable, where we have alternative materials or can get rid of packaging or the application altogether because it's not necessary, such as multiple wrapped vegetables, for example. And so elimination is the first kind of step. Then once packaging is necessary and once you have to use plastics because it has maybe the best functionality and the best safety profile for that application, the question is how do you design it upstream in a way that's recyclable, that's not toxic, that doesn't have unintended harm further down in the value chain once the product ends up in the waste management space. So then you're talking about design. Then once you've designed the product correctly, the more we can reuse multiple times, reusable packaging like reusable water bottles or cups or lunch boxes, applications that are really very prevalent in the single-use space. But if we have a reuse culture and a reuse system, it's much more resource efficient and much more beneficial to the environment. So reuse is the next piece. Then we have a lot of innovations and solutions in the recycling space we can apply. And finally, we also need to innovate around how do we have more responsible and less harmful incineration and landfill where it cannot be avoided. So we have to really think about solutions across the whole value chain.
And across all that value chain, the different actors that are involved in exactly the three steps that you just mentioned, how do you think is the best way of putting them together in charge of what they need to do and to have their willingness to get there?
Yeah, I think a lot of the efforts to address these pollutions are very myopic or siloed. For example, when I'm designing a product, I can design it in a way that's technically recyclable maybe, but if I don't talk to the actual waste management and recycling companies or the waste pickers that then actually deal with the product a few days or a few months or a few years down the chain, like I don't really understand the realities of what is required in practice. And so I think what we can do is actually link together the conversations between the different actors so that they learn from each other and can together co-design and co-shape these solutions. And this is what we do at the Global Plastic Action Partnership, both through our national platforms where actors come together across the whole value chain, but also in global discussions, because a lot of these issues have to also be addressed at the international, regional level as well.
And finally, how do you see Ambition as a NGO that exactly does more or less what you guys are doing, trying to connect all these different pieces and actors in order to accelerate the final solution?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're constantly looking for partnerships and collaborations with organizations that, first of all, have the same mission and approach in mind, meaning multi-stakeholder and systemic. So Ambition Loop falls in that category. but also where we have different comparative advantages. For example, connecting the methane and inorganic opportunities and challenges to the plastics and non-organic challenges, because as we heard today in the discussion, if we are able to solve for multiple problems with one action or one solution, we are much better off, and we can actually tackle these challenges together.
And just last question. What would you say to the plastic industry? One of the questions, really good one, was: is it part of the solution or is it part of the problem?
Like anyone in the ecosystem, whether it's consumers or the plastics industries or everything in between, the retail and consumer goods companies and actors, everybody's part of the problem and part of the solution. I think that the plastic producers have a unique responsibility to think about chemicals of concern, to think about design upfront of polymers and materials and what they can contribute to in terms of circularity and a better environmental and social impact and health impact, right? So I think that the producers have a huge role to play, and we need them at the table and be constructive to bringing about those solutions.
Kristen,